the company and its name in the environment, basically, and aligning itself with, you know, the green policies and so on, and eking out a niche for itself in terms of attracting further business, depending on the nature of its services. So there's an indirect arrangement for private sector entities to become engaged with those entities that are accessing the fund directly, so that there can be mutual benefits in terms of both to the environment and to the improvement of the quality of life of our citizens. I hope that I have addressed sufficiently at this point in time, given the regulations governing the Green Fund, where the private sector falls in this area. I know it's a burning question. It is not intended, of course, the private sector are the contributors to the fund. You may realize that. The Green Fund levy is for the for-profit companies to contribute a levy every quarter that capitalizes the fund. And that is, so the fund is capitalized ad infinitum. And right now it stands at just over 2 billion TT. So in that context, as it is now in terms of the legal framework, the private sector entity, the for-profit entity which contributes to the fund, is not going to be a recipient of the fund directly. Have I answered your question appropriately? Yes. Thank you.
CNG kits are duty-free. Solar water heaters imported duty-free as well? That's the first question. And the second question is, go ahead with the first one, sorry. Solar water heaters, duty-free?
Incentives and tax credits for those, as far as I understand.
Yeah, the tax credit was 25%
on wear and tear, if I recall.
On the purchase solar water heaters, but it's not import duty-free.
I'm not sure if the necessary arrangements are already in place, but certainly that is the intention.
Okay, and the second question is, when can people begin to get the 25% tax credit for the solar water heaters? I have a container sitting now since last year that I paid 20% duty on.
That's something that the Ministry of Finance will have to
okay, I have to contact them.
Based on any budgetary implications.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
You mentioned that the Scotia SME clients benefit from energy efficient audits. We could elaborate a little bit more on that. Is it that they get special incentives with the rates, that type of stuff? And Mr. Kumar is saying again, you're a bit in the hot seat here. When will the policies be implemented? Because I've been in this thing for a while and I've been hearing talks about the policies going through its paces for quite a while. And you know, we're waiting to see the fruits of this labor. Do you have any idea when these policies will be? Because this will ultimately govern and regulate the sustainable growth of the industry. So I think, yes, it's an essential step. We have people with green funds, with regulatory processes, and a lot of people can't maximize on the fantastic ideas, concepts that we have. So I'm curious to know if you have a target date for the policies, as well as the SME incentives, please.
The nature of the policy, because it relates to energy consumption, the private sector, academia, and so on, there's no one authority, if you want, that can actually implement the policy. And that is why in the remarks it was highlighted that the multipartite approach needs to be employed for the implementation of the policy. So, for example, provisions of the policy that speak to the agricultural sector would have to be implemented through agricultural policy. So the agricultural policy, for example, would have to be modified and amended to give effect to those provisions in the climate change policy. The same thing for energy use, for example. Because these things are cross-ministerial, cross-ministry, cross-agency, there is no one ministry or agency that can implement the climate change policy across boards. So it has to be integrated within all sectors, within all agencies, and within all ministries to actually give fruit to the provisions of the policy.
If there is a special loan facility for small to medium enterprises. This loan facility, there are two facilities that Scotiabank has. One is for business improvements, really, in the energy sector. But there's a second loan facility that began, well, it's initiated by the government of Jamaica, using Petrocaribe development funds to put into a $1 billion Jamaican dollars energy fund. And that again is for small to medium enterprises, specifically for energy projects, for energy efficiency and conservation projects, and for renewable energy projects. The rate of the the interest is just below 10%, which is quite attractive considering loan interest rates in Jamaica. And the money is held in the Development Bank of Jamaica, which is a government bank, the Government Development Bank. But the money the facility is managed by commercial banks on lending these funds to potential clients. Now, there have been some challenges to this access to this loan. One is that the cap on it is 10 million Jamaican dollars. And if you're going to install a renewable energy facility, that is not a lot of money. No, secondly, that the collateral that is being asked for renewable energy equipment is a bit onerous. So we have to rethink what that collateral is, because remember now, you're moving from a government loan facility that is passed through a commercial facility, and they have to ensure that they're able to be repaid this loan. The banks normally get the loans for at about 5%, and they get a spread between 3% and 3% for interest and for administrative fees. So there is a facility.
Possibly a phased implementation where each group is responsible for their little camp and basically holding on to their territory. It will, I think, support a faster rollout, which is what we need. Because currently, this is one of the few times I think Trinidad might actually be handicapped with a race with regard to energy. Because it's so cheap, we're not motivated. So as a result, the bureaucracy is actually working against us here. And I think we should try and look at a different way of rolling out these policies so that we can get things happening. Because we have a lot of, as I said, a lot of fantastic ideas and a lot of innovative means of saving energy. And it's not being maximized because of this. And I have to say in closing, and I have to apologize because I have to leave kind of early. So far from everything we've gathered, this is more of a statement. There are three main components to motivating change with regard to the way we look and interpret and use energy. It's economic, social, and personal. Some of them have been identified in the examples where tourists come in, ask questions with regard to what type of hotel, energy savings, and stuff like that. That is a personal motivation. The social part is about an awareness of the culture of the way we use energy. Unfortunately, and it's a double-edged sword, in Trinidad we're not economically motivated to look at energy differently. So we should try to look at the other components with regard to getting and accepting the change. One sure way is to include or incorporate more of a marketing strategy with the business plans and the energy audits and everything, because unless if you get the people to accept the change, stimulate the thought process the way you want it, the decision to go green will never be realized. So there's a vital and key component that is missing in the whole effort. We have tons of engineers. We have tons of innovative people. We have pioneers, people who saw examples and made the most of it, right? The natural gas substitutions for power for air conditioning units, which is the main consumer of energy, is fantastic. But it's a stopgap because at the end of the day, natural gas will run out too. But it's an acceptable step forward. We're getting one step closer to where we want to be and one step further from where we don't want